Well, lads and lasses, I've just sat through Beatles 64, and I must say it's like someone made a sandwich with all the wrong fillings. It's got the bread of a documentary, but no butter, no jam, no flavour. They took one of the most exciting years of the Beatles' short life, the beginning of the US invasion, Beatlemania at its peak, and managed to make it feel like a slow Tuesday at the library. Let's start with the storytelling, or lack of it. 1964 was chaos incarnate. Venue after venue, the Ed Sullivan Show, fans screaming louder than the amps. That should have been the heartbeat of this film, but it's missing. Instead, you get a dull timeline, like a school project. There's no sense of the madness, no taste of what it felt like to ride that rocket. Now the talking heads, they've got plenty of those. Experts and commentators prattling on, but do they bring anything new to the table? Not really. With one notable exception, they're like the lad in the pub who has repeated a story so many times that the telling has become the story. Where's the spark? The passion? They should have found someone who loved the music, loved the madness. Even George Martin talking about tape splicing would have been more riveting. And then there's the music, or rather the lack of it. The songs the Beatles wrote weren't just background noise, they were the story. A Hard Day's Night, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Those songs were the sound of 1964, and they still resonate. But here, the music's treated like wallpaper, something you barely notice. If you're making a Beatles documentary, you've got to put the music front and center. Let it drive the narrative. The footage is another letdown. It's the same clips we've seen 1,000 times. The Beatles arriving at JFK, playing Shea Stadium, waving at fans from a balcony. Where's the rare stuff, the offstage moments, the interviews where they're taking the mickey out of the press? There's no intimacy, no sense of who they were when the cameras weren't rolling. Now, let's talk about pacing. Watching this film is like waiting for a bus that's late. The early parts drag on, and by the time it gets to anything remotely interesting, you've already nodded off. There's no build-up, no energy, no rhythm. A film about the Beatles should move, should bounce, like one of their tunes. But this, it is as yawn-inducing as the bands that tried to capitalize on the Beatles' success. That one yawning shot is so on the dot. That said, I'll give it this. The documentary does a decent job of showing how Beatlemania looked from the outside. The screaming fans, the press hysteria. It captures the frenzy, even if it doesn't explain what made it all happen. It's not completely without merit, but it's like looking at a photo of a volcano instead of feeling the heat. In the end, Beatles 64 is a missed opportunity. They had all the ingredients, the music, the madness, the magic of 1964. But instead of baking a feast, they've served up a stale biscuit. It's not terrible, but it's not brilliant either. It's like one of those tribute bands that play the notes but miss the soul. Want to relive 1964? Listen to A Hard Day's Night. Watch the Ed Sullivan performance. But don't expect this documentary to take you there. It's like looking through a frosted window at a year that was blazing hot. All right, that's enough whinging. Back to my tea. Maybe next time they'll get it right.